What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with my review of the Realme GT8 Pro. Now, this device is a very interesting smartphone. In fact, there's several things about this device that I've never even seen before on another smartphone, and I'm excited to go over all of that here in this video. So let's get started. So this is the Realme GT8 Pro. Now, I'd like to thank Realme for being kind enough to send this phone out to me to cover here in the channel. Overall, I'm a big fan of the Realme brand. I feel like Realme is always trying to find something new to bring to the table, and this brand really does have an identity of its own. Now, what's interesting though is that Realme is actually part of the same company as Oppo and OnePlus. And what's especially great about that is that all the good things you'd find with an Oppo device or a OnePlus device, such as the excellent software and also just the really well-built hardware, is also found here too with Realme. What's also interesting too is that Realme is one of the fastest growing smartphone brands in the world, and I can definitely tell why. Now, the Realme GT8 Pro is a full flagship. This device does feature the latest Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Gen 5 processor. It's a very fast phone, and this device is packed full of features. Literally every feature that you'd want to find in a smartphone is here on this device. So especially when it comes to the cameras, which I'll be showing you a little bit more later in the video, there are tons of different options, and this phone is also packed full of AI. So if you are someone who loves to have a smartphone that's not only fun and looks cool, but also has tons of features built in, then I think you're definitely going to like the Realme GT8 Pro. Now, speaking of the cameras, you can see here right on the box, the camera is powered by Ricoh. So Ricoh is kind of a legacy camera brand. So we've been seeing this over the years. I know OnePlus this year dropped their camera partnership, but they were previously with Hasselblad. It seems like there's so many smartphone brands at this point that do have collaborations with a legacy camera company. So for Realme, that partner is Ricoh, and you can see it literally here on the device as well. But before we get too far into things here with the Realme GT8 Pro, let's see what all comes included in the box. And speaking of which, I didn't just get this box from Realme when they sent out the phone, but they also sent out the detachable camera decoration protective cover set. So that's definitely a long name for this product, but basically the signature feature of this phone, or at least one of them, and that's actually the unique feature that I mentioned initially in this video, is that you can actually take off the camera module, like this outer area of the camera, and then swap it out for a completely different one that's a whole different shape. So stay tuned, as I will be showing you how that works in the video, but it is a very unique feature. But as you can see, it's actually a pretty big box, and that's because there is a USB wall adapter included, which is great. But we'll open this up here, and the first thing we have here is this packet. So we'll see what's in here. So there is, of course, the typical literature. There's also some extra screws, and that's because if you are actually taking off this camera module, I think they're worried that you might lose these screws that come with it. And if that's the case, then you won't really be able to put the camera module cover back on. So I do appreciate that they're giving you extras there just in case. We're getting the typical literature you'd find with a smartphone, and then we do have this case included here in the box. And you can see there's even a diagram on this case showing you that you can put different camera modules on this device. So it is kind of a fun gimmick here with the phone, but by default, we are getting this circular camera module, which then does match this case that comes in the box. There's also a few additional items in the box. So we do have this Super VOOC wall adapter. Now, this doesn't work in North America, which is where I'm located, but you can see it does have USB-A, but it's a super fast charging wall adapter, which is why it is Super VOOC. We're also getting a USB-C cable for charging and data transfer, and then finally, there is a SIM card removal tool. So visually, I do think the Realme GT8 Pro is a very nice looking smartphone. I love this look, especially on the back of the device. Now initially, it just looks like a single color, and close up here you can see it does have a unique texture. So I don't even know what this texture would be described as, but it's certainly not a completely flat texture. It does feel soft to the touch, which is great, and then I like too that it doesn't pick up any fingerprints. So this phone definitely does have a high quality finish. And we're also getting a matte finish around the sides of this device, so overall, again, just a nice looking handset. Now with the Realme GT8 Pro, we're getting a very large 6.79 inch display, and this display does feature Corning Gorilla Glass 7i, so it is nice and durable. Now this is an AMOLED display. We're getting a 144 Hz refresh rate, which makes this phone excellent for gaming. The display can also get very bright at a 7000 nit peak brightness. And then we're also getting a 1440 by 3136 display, so a super high resolution display. So with this phone, we are getting a PPI 508. We're getting a 19.5 by 9 aspect ratio, so a narrow but tall form factor. And then finally, we're getting a 90.7% screen to body ratio. So you can see there are very small bezels all throughout this device here. The phone does come with a film screen protector pre-installed, so you can take that off if you want to. And then up top here, we do have the front-facing camera, and that front camera is 32 megapixels. But this phone has excellent specifications. We're getting 16 gigabytes of RAM and 512 gigabytes of storage. So again, this phone is truly a beast. And as I mentioned a second ago, that fast refresh rate at 144 Hz does make this phone great for gaming. And I do feel like the Realme brand does kind of appeal to gamers. They kind of make it that type of brand, if that makes sense. Now also with this device, there is 50-watt wireless charging. You do have to use a compatible wireless charger to get that, of course, but that is really awesome. And then with the phone, we do have an in-display fingerprint sensor, so it's super fast and accurate. And then the phone also has face unlock. Now taking a look at the back of the phone with the camera module here, we are getting a triple camera setup. So we're getting a 50 megapixel main camera, a 50 megapixel ultra wide angle camera, and then finally a 200 megapixel periscope telephoto camera that gives us a 3x optical zoom. Now overall, those are some great camera specifications, and if we head over to the camera app, there are tons of different features within this camera app. So the first thing you can see here is the Ricoh GR mode. So the idea with this mode is that you're gonna get images that look a little bit more like an old school camera, and not in a bad way either. It'll give you images that just don't really look like they were taken with a smartphone, which I feel like at this point in 2025 is actually pretty refreshing. Now you can go here as well to access different modes within that. So there is standard, but there's other modes to choose from as well. You can even do high contrast black and white. You can even further customize how you want these modes to look. But that's kind of the idea of this Ricoh GR mode. And in addition to that, you're also getting options for 28 or 40 millimeter modes, and there is an auto or a pro mode here as well. So within pro, you're getting tons of different options. So there's just so many different things here to test out, and I definitely feel like if you're taking this phone with you on a trip, for example, and you want to take some really cool looking images and some images that look different and unique, then this Ricoh GR mode is really a great option to have. Now, if that is a bit much for you, there's no problem. You can use the standard photo mode as well. So there is the 1x regular camera, there's the ultra wide, there's the 3x telephoto, and then you can see you can zoom in at 6x, but that is more of a digital zoom in addition to that 3x optical zoom. So lots of options there as well. Also, if you go over to this option there, you can see AI landscape. Now, that's definitely a mode where I found kind of mixed results. And again, I recommend trying out all these different modes. Just have some fun with it, because that's really the point of Realme devices and why they put all these features in here. But I did notice that sometimes images taken in this AI landscape mode did turn out to look a little bit fake, if that makes sense. So I just love though that you're getting so many different choices between the different modes here. So there's really something for everybody. And of course, within the More tab, there are just so many different options here. So again, there's just so many different things. There's underwater mode, there's this high-res mode, there's pro video. There's just so many different things here. But let's now take a look at some camera samples from the Realme GT8 Pro. So these first couple of images taken with the device are using that AI camera mode. So you can probably get an idea from those examples that you can see right in front of you that they do look really cool, that's for sure. But they do also look like they're not necessarily that realistic. But that's also not necessarily a bad thing, especially if you're looking to take photos as more of an art experience rather than just taking the most accurate looking images. And same thing here with that Ricoh GR mode. So these images just look a little bit more artistic. So that's certainly not a bad thing. They look like they were taken with a regular camera. So that is the idea. So I do feel like that effect does actually work pretty well. So I am glad that Realme did collaborate with Ricoh. Now these other images were taken with just the standard camera mode. So certainly nothing we've never seen before here, but at the same time, that's kind of the point. I think people just want to have a good, reliable camera on their smartphone. And of course, with this phone being a flagship, you shouldn't expect anything less than that. So definitely when it comes to that, the Realme GT8 Pro is a good phone to take great looking images. But let's now take a look at some video samples with the Realme GT8 Pro. What's going on, everyone? This is Kevin here, coming at you with a 4K front-facing test video with the Realme GT8 Pro. So let me know what you think of the quality, not only the video quality, but also the audio quality. But I'm really excited about this device. We're getting a lot of really cool cameras here with the phone and tons of different capabilities. So overall, just a ton of value here from Realme. And here's a 4K test video using the main rear camera with the Realme GT8 Pro. And we have really quick autofocus in video mode, which is great. Now I just switched over to the 3x optical zoom. So it is nice that you can switch between the camera modes in the same video clip. And then there's 6x zoom. It's a little bit further in. And from my perspective, it looks like we're getting really good stabilization too, which is great. Definitely makes that telephoto mode a lot more useful. And now I switched over to the ultra wide camera. So what's the deal with this camera module? Like I mentioned, it can be removed. That's why there's 2 screws right here. So you can literally just screw this off. And then if you have this kit, which you should, I think, I'm pretty sure it comes with the phone. Maybe it doesn't, but double check on that. But if you don't want to use this, you don't have to. But if you want to, you should. So you can literally just swap the camera module for a rectangular one. So let me now skip over to me after I installed that. So here's the phone with that new alternative camera module. So we went from the circular one here that comes out of the box to now the rectangular one right here. And in addition to that, they also provide this case then that fits that new camera module. So now it's rectangular, as you can see. But let's be real, does this matter at all? I mean, the truth is it's just purely visual, which just considering that on its own actually is kind of a cool thing to see here. I mean, I've never tested a smartphone ever before that even gave us this option of taking off one of the camera modules and then putting on another one. So I do give Realme a lot of credit here for being creative with that. And technically, I guess third parties could create a bunch of different camera modules that even look different from this one that then would attach to those same screws there. So there are a lot of different ways that this phone potentially could be heavily customized. And what's cool too is that technically you don't have to have a camera module plate at all. So if you take this off, which I'll take it off now, and it's literally just 2 of these screws here that are holding it on. You can then take this off, and technically you could rock the phone like this because it is purely cosmetic having these on the device. So even on its own, this looks really cool with no camera module cover here. So I'm curious to know what you think. If you had the opportunity, would you just not even have one at all? Technically, either case here would work then in this configuration. Now, as far as performance goes with the Realme GT8 Pro, like I mentioned, this phone does have 16 gigabytes of RAM, which is fantastic. And in addition to that, the phone does feature the Qualcomm Snapdragon 8 Elite Gen 5, so it is the latest and greatest from Qualcomm, and that's certainly a good thing. I love Qualcomm chips. They're the best of the best, and this phone certainly is a beast when it comes to performance. So definitely, if you want to use the phone for gaming, it's great for that. Literally anything. The phone runs very cool. The phone is very fast to set up, all thanks to that Snapdragon technology. So good job, Snapdragon, with your innovations. Now, I did run a benchmark test using Geekbench 6, and here are the scores that I got from that test. So I got a single core score of 3616 and a multi-core score of 10838. So we are getting into the 5 digits here when it comes to the multi-core score. So this phone really does run fast. It's very well optimized. Everything's super smooth here. Like I mentioned, because Realme is part of the same group as OnePlus and Oppo, we're getting great software here. So just an overall very well refined software experience. We're also just getting so many different tools here, more than I can show you in this single video. There's an AI studio. There's just tons of different AI features in this phone. So in general, I do like the software a lot with this device. They even have this sidebar here, which you can swipe over and you can easily get to different functionalities on the device. You can see there's AI sketches, just so many different things this phone can do. And then with this device, we are getting a very large 7,000 milliamp hour internal battery, and the phone does support up to 120 watt fast charging. Now in North America, you can't actually charge a phone at 120 watts. That is a limitation with the outlets here in North America. But if you are in other regions, then you can recharge at that speed, which really is incredible. I love really fast charging, and that's certainly not a gimmick. That's genuinely helpful for anyone who needs to recharge their phone. Now this device does come with Android 16 out of the box. Like I mentioned, I do love the skin we're getting here, or at least the take on Android that we're getting from Realme. And then with this phone, we are getting up to 4 major Android software updates. The phone does have NFC, which is great for tap and pay. We're getting stereo speakers. The phone also features an IP68, IP69 dust and water resistance rating, so the phone can face high pressure jets, and you can put the phone underwater for a while. The footrest out, which can go in, and I do have the chair. So this phone is excellent for watching video content. We're getting this very big canvas, so that's great. Definitely comes in handy if you want to sit back, relax, and watch videos. And the speakers are excellent here with the Realme GT8 Pro. And as I mentioned earlier in the video, this phone does have excellent hardware. It's definitely a heavy phone. It feels heavy, which is because it does have a solid, high-quality build, but also it is a very big smartphone. On the right side here, we have volume up and down and the power button. On the left side, we have nothing. Up top here, we have the noise-canceling microphone, speaker, and IR blaster. On the bottom of the phone, we do have the SIM card slot, microphone, USB-C port for charging and data transfer, and we have the main speaker. And then on the back of the phone, we have that camera module, which you can customize. And that's pretty much it. We've got Realme branding and Ricoh branding as well. But this is the Realme GT8 Pro. I'm definitely curious to know what you think about this device. But this is Kevin here. Thanks again for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Take care.